I've been in Strangeways and I've been in Forest Bank, which is a Cat B prison here in Salford. And like I say, I still speak to a lot of prisoners up and down the country. And I've seen report after report from both prisoners, serving prisoners, former prisoners, and obviously the Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Prisons. And the fact is it's squalid, vermin infested, dilapidated, run down, and just decrepit. All Victorian prisons for the most part, and like I say, treating prisoners in that way and having them live in them conditions doesn't aid rehabilitation in any which way. If anything, it goes right the other way.
Prisons haven't just got bad now, they've been bad for 10, 20, 30 years. Yesterday, the prison minister pledged £10 million worth of investment for the 10 worst prisons, with Mr Stewart, the prisons minister, promising to resign if the programme fails to deliver improvements. Cody, is this enough funding, and what changes to prisons do prisoners need to see and want to see?
At the end of the day, £10 million for the 10 worst prisons, and the thing is, it's a drop in the ocean. And do you know what? The thing is, as you just alluded to in the first question about Birmingham Prison, G4S, well, formerly G4S, now it's back in the hands of the public sector. Just absolutely, just £10 million is a drop in the ocean. It's like giving muffins to an elephant. At the end of the day, it doesn't touch the sides. I think £10 million per prison, and you're still way off. Like I say, the prison, the penal system and the prison system has been so underfunded and under-resourced for so long that you just can't fully. It takes years and millions upon millions of pounds investment into each prison to bring it up to an adequate level. And like I say, prisons need to be treated where they live in humane conditions with humanity and humility. But the fact is, it's not going to happen because, for the most part, prisoners are not on the government's agenda. The only way the prisoners will be on the government's agenda fully is if prisoners are given the right to vote, and then all these political parties across the board would have to factor in prisoners into their manifestos when the canvassing for when the next general election comes round. Prisons need to be places of education, skills and training where, like I say, we're in 2018. There are still 1,298 cells without in-cell sanitation in this country, in England and Wales. I don't know if them cells are in service. I'm assuming that they're not, because I can't see prisoners slopping out in 2018. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they were.
And finally, Cody, if the government continues to run the prisons in the same way they've done for years, and continue running them the same way now, in squalid conditions, as you mentioned, with blood on the walls, vomit, and essentially prison officers and prisoners afraid of inmates and other individuals, what does the future hold for prisons in the UK?
The prison system's gone backwards. I mean, since 1990, where here in Manchester we had the Strangeways riot, which, on the back of the Lord Wolf report, where actual in-cell sanitation was brought in. Apart from in-cell sanitation being brought in and TV's been introduced in 98, 99, the prison system has gone backwards. It's declining, and we're going to see riots similar to those of Strangeways back in 1990. The facts are that the way the current system is, and obviously the private and the public sector, prisons across the board are failing. Like I say, prisoners, prison officers and prisoners' families. And like I say, if it doesn't change soon, it's going to go off. There's going to be riots. And the riots will, rather than being obviously the Rory Stewart, the prisons minister, is saying the right sort of things. But the fact is he said himself on interviews across the board, if in 12 months drugs and violence haven't reduced, he's going to fall on his sword. Rehabilitation is a made-up word. Rehabilitation doesn't take place in prisons. They're just places they're doubling up as mental health units. People are struggling with addictions. People are going into prison having never taken a drug in their life and are leaving addicts or worse in body bags. It happened in my former prison, right? And it's only going to get worse, and it frustrates me to hell as a former prisoner, because I think me and other prison reformers that have actually got, we might not be academically up there, but we've got real life experience of the subject matter, and we've got a lot of good opinions, and we've got a lot of good ideas, but people like the Ministry of Justice don't listen to people like us, and unfortunately for prisoners, they're at the end of that domino trail.